And from the business of flying to the world of engineering, to a company that may be becoming something of a role model in these changing times.
And this is on trying to filter out the volume of the quotations that we're getting.
Shildon-based ISA Controls provide an in-house engineering and manufacturing service to the oil, gas and petrochemical industries.
The target markets.
In many ways, it seems to be a typical engineering company. Except the boss is called Judy. In this field, it's unusual to see a woman heading discussions around the board table, even more so when her right-hand man, Brian, is her husband. Judy Verdon received an MBE in 1988 in recognition of her service to industry. She has turned a business worth £250 into one which now has a turnover of £5 million. So from the boardroom to the breakfast table, Judy and Brian try to separate the personal aspects of life from the business ones. And that's easier said than done, because in this case, if it hadn't been for the partnership in business, there almost certainly would not have been a partnership in marriage.
The working and personal relationship that I have with my husband has been one that's been developed over an awful lot of years. When we set the company up in 1968, we in fact were pure business partners. We had other marriage partners. That's probably a much more interesting story than the company one, but it's a separate issue obviously to our discussions today. He and I worked together from 1968 to 1976 when we joined our families together and then took on our 5 children. We have 5 children between us. I take the role in the company of managing director and Brian is technical director, but I would stress it's still very much a partnership. It's very much an equal partnership. There are odd occasions when perhaps I have to guide us in a direction that he may not necessarily wish to go, and sometimes I get some reaction from him naturally. We both take the business fairly personally, and I think this is probably fairly common in a family-run environment, that it's very difficult to separate emotion from logic.
I always describe myself as a great number 2. Judy is very visual and an excellent number 1, a great MD, and it's taken a long time in engineering to get the respect of a lot of engineers, not only in this company but all over. And I think that we both have our areas of responsibility. I am an engineer. I don't get involved in the more glamorous side in some ways, but important. And the growth of the company and the vision of the company is much more Judy's domain.
The way we sell ourselves as a company is that we have a comprehensive ability on one site. We can engineer, design, procure, offer documentation requirements, purchase major inline products, machine, fabricate, test and install, all from one basic site here in Shildon. So although others might take up part of that process, we offer it as under one umbrella on one site.
ISA has over 20 years' experience in the design and manufacture of primary flow elements. Its products are supplied to industry all over the world. Here in Newton Aycliffe stands one of Europe's largest PVC compound manufacturers, Hydropolymers. Installed on site are ISA's flow and temperature measuring devices. This small component allows them to control efficiently their processing of raw materials. Meanwhile, back at base in Hackworth Industrial Estate, ISA are putting the finishing touches to a relatively new development.
The equipment is for a North Sea oil operator, and some years ago the complete assembly would be done offshore. What's happening now, because of the problem of personnel and integrity of systems offshore, more and more are being built in a modular fashion, and this is a modular skid that's going off an oil rig, and the idea is that we can build it, test it, and make sure it'll work here in a much easier environment than offshore, and then it'll be lifted by a crane off onto the North Sea and use it. What's happened in modern technology now with modern PCs, you can get very sophisticated systems on CAD that'll do all the pipework design, all the calculations for you in small companies.
ISA has a commitment to employee training and development. Joanna Doran is a former art student. With the help of ISA, she's currently undertaking a course in engineering to gain promotion within the company.
I think it's a shame that we don't see more women, particularly young people, building themselves into careers which are traditionally the domain of men. We have to be the ones that say, I want to be in there amongst the engineers. I want to be out there on site, building plants, constructing roads, constructing bridges, whatever. I very much feel that it's up to us. We shouldn't sit back and say to the guys, we have a right to be there. We must be amongst you in business. We've got to make our own presence felt and push ourselves into that sort of role.
If within a short while getting to know Judy, you're swearing at her, she realises you've forgotten she's a woman. And I think she's never lost the appeal of being a woman. She's always looked upon, she doesn't look manly, she looks very much a woman, but they know behind her is a very engineer and tough, she's got a tough image.